Greetings. Some of you know me, but my name is Roy Reamer, and I'm the Executive Director of Zen Caregiving Project. And I've been involved in this end of life and caregiving work since 1997. And I'm really happy that as an organization, we've been able to answer the call of the pandemic and offer these free sessions as support to both professional caregivers and family caregivers. So this session is designed for professional caregivers. Um, and today we're looking at reawakening our values. So values affirmation. So a really important topic, I think, especially at a time when many of us are feeling pretty overwhelmed by things. So I think it's fair to say there's a lot of anxiety that we're experiencing. Here we are on the cusp of reopening the economy and society, and it's really uncertain as to whether or not we'll get a second wave of COVID-19. So for many of us who are, working in the healthcare field, it brings up so much for us, not just our personal financial impact, but of course, um, how do we keep ourselves safe, right? So meanwhile, there's so much else going on in society right now. It does feel like we're on the cusp of big changes in regard to racial justice, inclusion, policing. This remains to be seen. And, these are certainly positive changes, I hope, but all changes can cause some anxiety. So I think of the times we're in as kind of a great initiatory process. And I don't really think any of us knows where we're heading. It's a bit of a mystery. And each of us is holding a lot. And so I want to express my gratitude to all of you as professional caregivers and healers for the work that you're doing out there. So in our session today, we'll start off with a short meditation just to kind of drop into our time together to cross that threshold. And then I'll offer a very quick review of mindfulness. And then I'll lead us through a short guided contemplation that looks at values. And then I'll spend a little bit of time talking generally about this idea of values affirmation and how it can re-energize our commitment to serve and to care for others. And then I'll end with a guided loving kindness meditation. Again, a way of rekindling our deepest held values. And I encourage you to use the chat function in Zoom. And at the bottom, everyone must be familiar with Zoom by now, but just in case, at the bottom, you'll see a chat button. And if you click on that, the chat field will open up, and you can use that to offer comments or questions. And we're scheduled to end at 1:15, and I'll do my best to leave time for questions. And if need be, I'll stay on and address any questions beyond 1:15, or 15 after the hour, I should say. Not everyone's on the West Coast. So finally, I'll just remind you all that Zen Caregiving Project is a small nonprofit based in San Francisco. And if you like what you hear today, please visit our website, zencaregiving.org, and please join us for one of our mindful caregiving education courses. All right, so what does mindfulness have to do with reconnecting with our values? Well, it seems to me that when we make time to quiet and focus the mind through mindfulness, we can more easily connect with what matters most to us. And many of us spend so much of our time in a chronic state of overwhelm and busyness. We get really swept up in the details of daily living, whether it's work life, family life, or just our general busyness. And so we can very easily lose touch with what makes meaning in our life. And so grounding our attention in the present moment really creates an opening to remember what makes meaning for us and create space for us to stay in contact so that we can express our deepest felt values and purpose through our actions. So I think cultivating mindfulness in our life really enables us to stay in contact with our values. So we'll spend a little bit of time with this mindfulness piece, and we'll start with a short meditation. So I want to acknowledge that many of you are familiar with mindfulness practice and very likely even have a meditation practice in your life. So if that is the case, that's wonderful. And I encourage you to call in the spirit of a beginner's mind. Um, and for those of you who don't really have a practice in your life, you'll get another taste to see what this is like. So to begin, if it's comfortable for you, just let yourself close your eyes. And whatever your circumstances in this moment, just begin to let your mind settle a bit by directing your attention to the physical body, perhaps starting with those points of contact between your body and whatever surface is supporting you. The chair you're sitting upon, the floor that perhaps you're standing upon, whatever points of contact you're experiencing, just let your attention go to those places. Sensing into the gravity that's holding you in place. If your feet are touching the floor, sensing into that point of contact. Maybe sensing into your hands. So many nerve receptors in the hands. What are your hands touching in this moment? Just simply observing. We're really shifting from the thinking mind to the sensing mind. Sensations are immediate. They are right here, right now. Beginning to let your attention rest gently upon the in-breath and the out-breath. Really just noticing the rhythm of your breathing. No need to change anything. Just observe. And for the next couple of moments, just notice when the mind gets distracted with thoughts. And if you can, just release those thoughts and return to the sensations of breathing in and breathing out. We do this over and over again. And in your own time, letting yourself just open your eyes if they're closed. Maybe stretch a bit in your chair if you need to. Take a sip of whatever drink you might have beside you. So, just a little taste of this practice of quieting the mind, focusing our attention on what's right in front of us in this moment, right now. So, the definition of mindfulness that I really like the best is paying attention to the present moment on purpose without judgment. And so, in that meditation, I encouraged you to notice when you get distracted by thoughts and simply come back to the immediacy of the breath. And so it's impossible to stop distractions or to stop thoughts. And so distractions are natural and to be expected. So this is really the practice. This is the piece. uh, this is what I mean by on purpose. We notice when we become distracted and we refocus our attention. And we just do this again and again. And we don't make a big deal out of it. And this is what I mean by without judgment. We're kind to ourselves and we gently just redirect our attention, right? So, paying attention to the present moment on purpose without judgment. And let me just name three benefits of mindfulness. And I'm not going to give a lot of detail because some of you have been with us before and you've heard this. But the three benefits of mindfulness that I think are most relevant to caregiving are um, mindfulness certainly helps build a calm mind, right? And this has a number of benefits itself. It also helps us cultivate focused attention. So over time, we begin to see that we have an easier time just staying focused on the task at hand or what's in front of us. And then thirdly, mindfulness increases our awareness. So both awareness of self and awareness of others. So we're really cultivating this ability to track what's happening around us and in our own personal experience. So the more we practice, the greater the benefit. So I like to say there's a dose response. So mindfulness is good medication, but you have to take it to benefit from it. And so while it may not be necessary to integrate a full-on meditation practice into your life, you can use the many activities in your day-to-day life to build this ability to just focus on what's right here, right now. So I like to think of mindfulness as an intervention. Okay, so I am going to guide us now in a values contemplation, and I'm pretty confident you'll enjoy this. So I want to acknowledge that clearly each of you has deeply held values. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here today. You wouldn't be in the healing professions, right? There was a moment in your life, probably when you were a very young person, when, as Dr. Rachel Naomi Remen says, you knew that the life and well being of others really mattered. You knew that the life and well being of others really mattered. And you decided to pursue a path to prioritize the needs of others. But as I said earlier, we're also busy. We can start to lose touch with um, that original intention in serving others. We can lose touch with our core values. So this contemplation is designed to help us revisit our deeply held values. And I'd like to give attribution to this contemplation to the Compassion Institute, which was started in the medical school at Stanford University. And I first learned this contemplation as part of my teacher's training to become a teacher of compassion cultivation training. Okay, so once again, if it's comfortable for you, we'll assume kind of an upright posture for meditation. And if you're in circumstances that allow it, I encourage you to close your eyes. And once again, just begin to shift from the thinking mind to the sensing mind just for a moment or two, sensing into the upright posture of the spine, letting our attention begin to find its way towards the breath. And why don't we take 3 deep intentional breaths, really following each breath in and out. And then letting your attention just rest on the natural rhythms of your breathing in and breathing out. Now, allow yourself to imagine lying back on a beach, staring up at the blue sky. Perhaps there are some clouds. The sand is warm. You're safe. You're comfortable. And as you're lying back, looking at the sky, let yourself contemplate the following questions that I'll pose to you. And don't be afraid to allow yourself to give voice to your highest aspirations without holding anything back. If anything were possible, what would you really love to find in your life? If anything were possible, what would you really love to find in your life? If anything were possible, how would you really love to grow in this lifetime? If anything were possible, how would you really love to grow in this lifetime? If anything were possible, what would you really love to offer your loved ones or your community? If anything were possible, what would you really love to offer your loved ones or your community? And now, as you transition out of that contemplation, I want to make some space for you to take a few moments to write down any responses that came to you during the contemplation. So just take a few moments to write down anything that came to you. How often do we really allow ourselves the time to consider these types of questions? It's good to make space to consider these things. For most of us, it doesn't really happen until we get that vacation where we get to sit on that beach. Even then, we can fill our time with so many distractions. All right. So, with these questions, we're engaging in a process that's known as values affirmation. And in 2016, there was a study done at UCLA that looked at the value or the benefit of values affirmation. And it used brain scans to look at which parts of the brain lit up when people were able to consider questions of this sort. And it found that affirming our own values actually leads to similar reward system activation in the brain as when we think about someone who really supports us, say a close friend or a loved one or a mentor. And Lev is going to put the reference to that study in the chat if you're interested in learning more about that. And we find that affirming values, most important to us, leads to increases in self-compassion and compassion for others. And self-compassion certainly leads to self-transcendence and pro-social focus on others, and the inclination to support and serve. And if you don't know his work, I highly recommend a book titled A Fearless Heart from Jinpa Tupten. And Jinpa reminds us that nurturing and soothing ourselves, like through values affirmation, is extremely rejuvenating, so that we have more benevolent energy for relating to others and the world around us, and relating to the needs of others. And when we feel better about ourselves, we tend to be more generous in our treatment of others. So reconnecting with our true purpose can rekindle our motivation to serve others when we find that that motivation has started to decrease for whatever reason. And I have found through personal experience, living our values just generally makes us happier, makes us happy. And I think reconnecting with our values makes us happy when we have outlets to express those values. Yeah. So many of us have been experiencing a lot of overwhelm in our work these past several weeks, or in life generally. And many of you have seen such intense and devastating suffering that you may be experiencing decreases or blocks to your usual compassion. Or maybe you're having difficulty sustaining your compassion in the work that you're doing. And this is quite natural. I think it would be surprising if this didn't happen. So, something that can reverse these decreases to our compassion, decreases such as moral distress, compassion fatigue, compassion fade, is to allow yourself to dwell on what's known as compassion satisfaction. Or, in other words, it's helpful to remind oneself that, I can make a difference. I'm proud or happy to be doing the work I do to help. And I'm happy that I chose this kind of work. And thinking about the happiness of others or thinking about helping others actually supports my happiness. Or even really noticing the enlivening that happens when you're engaged in helping others, to let yourself really dwell on these feelings of aliveness, right? So I think it's also worth mentioning that moral elevation can also serve as an antidote when our compassion begins to wane and when we get overwhelmed. So moral elevation is experienced when we um, witness others offering acts of compassion, or when we recognize the good in others. So reconnecting with our values is really about cultivating loving kindness towards oneself, this nurturing that Jinpa talks about. When we're kind to ourselves, we more readily get in touch with what matters most to us. And when we get in touch with what matters most to us, I think it's easier for us to be kinder to ourselves. And when we're kinder to ourselves, we feel better about others and are more available to support others. So let's do one more meditation together, and I promise this is the last one. This will be a loving kindness meditation. So, one more time, just allowing yourself to take on a posture of uprightness in your seat that you can maintain, 5, 6 minutes. And I know I offered you a lot there very quickly, but nonetheless, see if you can begin to quiet the thinking mind and return to sensations in the body. Maybe let yourself do a quick scan of the body from head to toe, just noticing any points of contraction or tension in the body. Is there anywhere where you're holding? And if you notice this kind of holding or tension, see if you can breathe into those spots. Direct your breath towards those areas and just soften. And then soften again. And after this quick scan of the body, seeing if you can return your attention to the breath, resting your awareness on the immediacy of the in-breath and the out-breath. And for this meditation, if it's comfortable for you, I encourage you to place one hand or even both hands over your heart, that space in the middle of the chest, right over your heart. And sense into what that feels like, those points of contact between your hand and this part of your chest, this caring hand, this loving hand. And if it's comfortable for you, let yourself repeat to yourself silently the following phrases. First, thinking of someone who you care deeply about, someone with whom you have an uncomplicated relationship. This could be a child in your life, it could be um, a dear friend, an animal companion. But allow yourself to imagine this person, this creature, and offer the following to this loved one. May you be happy. May you be truly happy. May you be safe and free from danger. May you be safe and free from danger. May you be well in body, mind, and spirit. May you be well in body, mind, and spirit. May you live your life with ease. May you live your life with ease. And now imagine yourself sitting across from you. Imagine yourself gazing into your own face, keeping your own company, and offer the following phrases to yourself, to your own image. May I be happy. May I be truly happy. May I be safe and free from danger. May I be safe and free from danger. May I be well in body, mind, and spirit. May I be well in body, mind, and spirit. May I live my life with ease. May I live my life with ease. Really noticing what this feels like to offer yourself these wishes for well-being. And now think of someone in your life who may be struggling. Perhaps this person is struggling with some physical condition. Perhaps this person is struggling with financial challenges. Whatever the challenge is, allow yourself to imagine yourself sitting with this person or these people in your life and offer them, may you be happy. May you be truly happy. May you be safe and free from danger. May you be safe and free from danger. May you be well in body, mind, and spirit. May you be well in body, mind, and spirit. May you live your life with ease. And finally, if you can, imagine all the people in your immediate community. Imagine all the people in your extended community, in the state you live in this country, in all the far reaches of this planet. Imagine all people, all beings, all shapes, sizes, colors, ideas, and offer them the following. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe and free from danger. May all beings be well in body, mind, and spirit. May all beings live their lives with ease. So shifting from loving kindness, holding on to loving kindness, coming back to focusing your attention on the screen and the little postage stamp faces in front of you. So I love these practices. And I first started practicing with loving kindness or metta meditation before I knew anything about the science of these kinds of meditations. But there have been some really interesting recent studies that look at the benefits of integrating a regular, sustained, loving kindness meditation into your life. And um, the results are really promising and demonstrating that this kind of sustained practice produces a wide range of positive emotions in all kinds of different situations. And so these positive emotions that come from this kind of practice result in benefits such as increased sense of purpose in life, increased social support or inclination to support, decreases in depressive symptoms, increases in life satisfaction. So all really, really good stuff. And, I'd say when it comes to suffering, um, something that I like to share is something I like to say is that, as humans, what we do is make the impossible possible. As humans, we have just incredible resilience. And I think, you know, getting in touch with our values, nurturing the self through staying in touch with our values, nurturing the self through loving kindness meditation directed towards ourself and others, helps build our resilience. And there's a quote from Viktor Frankl I want to share. Viktor Frankl wrote this in Man's Search for Meaning. Life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by lack of meaning and purpose. Hmm. Life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by lack of meaning and purpose. So when you're feeling overwhelmed, reconnect with your purpose, reconnect with your values as a caregiver, as a human being. And to end this short session, I'd like to encourage all of us to set an intention to really reconnect with a simple value statement at least once a day and see if this changes anything for you. See if this contributes to a greater re-engagement with one's purpose. You can try this on as a thought experiment. So there's so much more to say on this topic. There are a couple things I intended to share, but I left out because of the clock. But as I said earlier, I'm happy to stay on if there are any questions. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the chat function. And let's see. Okay, we have one question or comment. There are some situations when caring for yourself means you can't help others, not being able to support someone as you feel it will exhaust you. Can you speak to those tensions? Yeah. So those of you who have been doing this work for a while, you know that this is, it's not a dash. It's a long distance run, right? And being in the caring professions can really ask so much of us. It takes so much from us that I think it's just imperative that we make time for self-care to sustain ourselves so that we can sustain others. When I'm working with family caregivers, I'll often talk about this, where, um, sometimes, well, often family caregivers feel like it's selfish to take time for themselves. And it's just necessary. Otherwise, people just burn out and get sick. And I think this is true for professional caregivers as well. I'm sure many of you know more about this than I do. Um, so I think it really becomes about balance. But, you know, um, there's some really common things that happen to us when we're feeling overwhelmed. It can take the form of what's known as compassion fade. And in the face of the pandemic, I think probably many of us are experiencing this, that the suffering we witness is so big that it actually decreases our compassion because of the overwhelm. Or, some of us may be experiencing compassion fatigue where we no longer feel satisfied with what we can do. It doesn't feel like enough. And as mentioned earlier, when we're confronted with these situations, with these experiences, it can be really helpful to reconnect with what matters most to us and to take the time to witness acts of kindness and compassion. This um, builds moral elevation and helps us reconnect. Okay. So, any other questions coming up for anyone? All right. Well, it's lovely to see you all. And again, just really, really grateful for the work that you're doing out there and for your willingness to take time for yourself to participate in something like this. And please do come back and see us. And yeah, so as the ED of a small nonprofit, I would be remiss if I didn't ask those of you who are able to financially, please do support our work. You can also support us by just sharing the work we do with people you know who could benefit from what we have to offer. And please visit our website and yeah, come back and see us. So thank you all.